Francisco Bolognesi Cervantes, born in Reyes in 1816 and died in Arica in 1880, was an outstanding Peruvian colonel known for his courageous participation in the Battle of Arica. In this confrontation, he lost his life on June 7, 1880, defending with his soldiers and pronouncing some famous words. "I have sacred duties to fulfill, and I will fulfill them until I burn the last cartridge." His courage and bravery have made him a historical example of military honor and warrior spirit. Bolognesi, son of Andrés Bolognesi and Juana Cervantes, completed his primary studies in Arequipa and later entered the Conciliar Seminary of San Geronimo in 1830, where he excelled in mathematics. After the death of his father in 1834, he worked in the newspaper El Comercio de Arequipa and dedicated himself to business, although his main interest lay in politics during a period of anarchy in the country. With the rank of lieutenant colonel, Bolognesi was appointed assistant to the general staff of the Arequipa division in 1853. He was promoted to the position of war commissioner on June 28, 1854, and participated in various battles in Ayacucho, Arequipa, Cusco, and other places. In 1856, he went on to serve in the General Army Inspectorate in Lima and, in 1857, became aide-de-camp to President Ramon Castilla. He was promoted to effective colonel on March 7th of the following year for his outstanding work. During the campaign against Ecuador in 1860, he played the role of chief of artillery. In 1862, he returned from Europe, where he was sent to acquire artillery pieces. And in 1872, he retired, leaving an outstanding legacy for his solid personality and excellence as commander of an artillery regiment. The Battle of Arica. The Battle of Arica took place during the War of the Pacific from 1879 to 1883, in which Peru and Bolivia confronted Chile. Francisco Bolognesi, summoned to defend the homeland, led the 3rd Division and participated in the battles of San Francisco and Tarapaca. Despite the initial victory of the Peruvian Navy in the naval combat of Iquique in May 1879, where the Huáscar, under the command of Miguel Grau, sank the Chilean corvette Esmeralda, commanded by Arturo Prat, the Battle of Ongamas in October of the same year granted Chile naval supremacy. After the defeat in the Battle of Tacna on May 26, 1880, southern Peru fell into Chilean hands, and only Arica, with a garrison of 1,600 men under the command of Bolognesi, remained in resistance, isolated by land and sea on the city's hill. Learning of the Tacna disaster on June 2nd from 5 survivors, Bolognesi, still not fully comprehending the magnitude of the defeat, held out hope that some units would be saved and come to his aid. He wrote telegrams to Lizardo Montero in Moquegua and Arequipa, promising to resist but requesting instructions, and especially the arrival of Leiva's forces, commissioned by Montero with 3,000 men to help him. Without receiving an answer, and with Leiva unable to reach Arica due to the Chilean occupation of Tacna, the only remaining option was the retreat towards the interior, to the Izapa Valley, but Bolognesi lacked authorization to carry out this maneuver. Months before, the placement of explosives in the hill overlooking the port had been initiated, but the capture of Engineer Elmore, in charge of this task, by the Chileans, revealed these plans. Although it has been mentioned without evidence that Montero and Bolognesi considered the possibility of blowing up the Morro, with defenders and attackers, and even the city, in case of losing the battle, Francisco Bolognesi was aware of the imperfection of the mines, and that the key to the defense lay in the artillery. Unfortunately, this was mostly composed of cannons that did not have the capacity to rotate in a circle, which complicated the defense. On June 5, 1880, a Chilean army parliamentarian, Major Juan de la Cruz Salvo, came forward to propose the surrender of the plaza to avoid bloodshed. He argued that military honor should not lead to a sacrifice without prospects of success, since the Chilean army had 6,000 men and superior armament, establishing a ratio of 4-1. Juan de la Cruz Salvo offered dignified conditions for the defeated. Before this proposal, Bolognesi answered, "I have sacred duties to fulfill, and I will fulfill them until I burn the last cartridge." Major Juan de la Cruz Salvo considered his mission accomplished, although Bolognesi requested a few hours to consult with his commanders. Salvo indicated that there was no time for that, and that he should return immediately. Bolognesi asked for a brief moment, consulted with his staff, and reaffirmed his answer, to which all adhered. On June 6, 1880, Colonel Augustin Ballon defected. Although Bolognesi ordered his arrest, Ballon managed to escape and flee to Moquegua. On his way, he met the prefect of Tacna, Alejandro del Solar, who was on his way to Arequipa. Surprised by the encounter, del Solar asked him about the situation in Arica. Given Ballon's lack of response, del Solar imagined what had happened and had him arrested. Although he was close to being shot, he was finally pardoned. In later years, he was elected deputy for the province of Tayakaja. The Chileans decided to attack from the eastern side, the steepest, instead of from the sea, where the Peruvians had concentrated their defense. On June 6th, an exchange of fire took place between the Chilean fleet and the artillery of the Moro, including the only Peruvian vessel, the Manco Capac. Under the command of the astute strategist Colonel Pedro Lagos, the Chilean army carried out several diversionary maneuvers, such as lighting bonfires in one place while mobilizing troops in another, and used Elmore as a parliamentarian for a final surrender proposal. Elmore, aware of the strategy, informed Bolognesi of the location of the Chilean troops, who would later change position. Although Elmore correctly suspected that the attack would come from the opposite side, Bolognesi, respecting the regulations, did not want to receive him as he considered him a prisoner of the enemy. On June 7, 1880, at 5:30 in the morning, the attack from the east side was carried out. After 3.5 hours of intense fighting, the Peruvian flag was lowered from the nose. The crew of the Manco Capac sank the ship to avoid capture. The plan of the mines did not succeed. According to a Chilean version, Bolognesi ran towards the Santa Barbara shortly before the end to explode the mines, but when he saw that this did not happen, he shouted treason. The Peruvians witnessed the death of almost half of their troops, including Colonel Bolognesi, who was killed by a gunshot. Francisco Bolognesi Cervantes was an outstanding Peruvian military and patriot who distinguished himself for his bravery and leadership, especially during the War of the Pacific. Here are some values and characteristics associated with Francisco Bolognesi. 1. Bravery. Bolognesi is remembered for his extraordinary bravery on the battlefield, as evidenced in the Battle of Arica, where he led the defense of the Moro despite the difficult conditions and the superiority of the Chilean army. 2. Military honor. He maintained a strong sense of military honor and loyalty to his country. His famous phrase, "I have sacred duties to fulfill, and I will fulfill them until I burn the last cartridge," reflects his unwavering commitment to his responsibilities as a military man. 3. Leadership. He played leadership roles in several instances, from his functions in the army to his participation in different military campaigns. His leadership was noted for his strategic ability and commitment to his subordinates. 4. Patriotism. Bolognesi was a fervent patriot who defended his country with determination. His active participation in the War of the Pacific and his willingness to sacrifice himself for his country are examples of his deep love for Peru. 5. Integrity. Although there has been speculation about the possibility of using extreme tactics during the Battle of Arica, Bolognesi's decision to respect regulations and not receive the Chilean parliamentarian as a prisoner shows his integrity and respect for military norms. 6. Commitment. He demonstrated a strong commitment to his duties and responsibilities, both in times of peace and during conflicts. His military career and his actions in battle are testimony to his dedication to the cause he embraced. These values contributed to forge the historical figure of Francisco Bolognesi as a military hero and a symbol of sacrifice and bravery in the history of Peru. But now it is your turn to comment. What do you think about this character? Did you know these facts about Francisco Bolognesi? We look forward to reading you in the comments. If you found the video useful, we appreciate if you like it to support our project and if you subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.